Hi all, this is Skate and this is the su122 and it's the newest tier 9 Russian tank destroyer. In short, this tank is the T-54, or the T-54 chassis, with a bloody great big IS-4 gun stuck to it. Only major difference being the IS-4 has a 5.29 rate of fire, this has a 6.67 rate of fire, same penetration, same alpha damage, and better gun dispersion. The IS-4 has 0.38 and this has 0.36. It's also got a 0.8 second quicker loading time than the IS-4. Couple that to the fact this has got a top speed of 48 kilometers an hour and a traverse speed of 33. You can basically fly around the map causing carnage effectively. And if you can put it in the right scenario, it will literally tear apart an opponent who is in front of you. Basically, the gun is great and the mobility is great. The problem is the armour. I just personally find it so unreliable. In scenarios you can go out and you can pretty much get bounce after bounce after bounce, and then in other battles you can go out and get penetrated by literally anything at any point in time. Here's one example. In front of me is a T-25-2 tier 7 tank. I'm charging him head first, and if you notice he shoots me as I'm coming up the hill and he penetrates. Obviously he's dead, so it doesn't matter, but I wanted to give that example because he's a tier 7 tank. Now the next example I want to show you is against the Death Star. 310 penetration these have. You know what's coming, he's going to bounce. But listen to that noise. I'm going to play it again because I can't be the only person who likes the ricochet noises and sound effects. Ricochet! I don't know why, I just love those sound effects. Anyway, now there's two different tanks in two different scenarios here. But it's just two examples of the armor layout on this tank which I wanted to show you. The Death Star bounced off the top left-hand side of the tank. And the truth be told, I have no idea where the T-25T2 penetrated me. I think it was either lower plate or just under the gun mantle. Now the reason I'm rabbiting on about the armour and this so much is A, I wanted to show you that epic ricochet noise, and B, the armour is just unreliable. It's the one part of the tank I struggled with. Just to give you a bit more detail on it, that rangefinder, which is the same as on the Object 268, is a weak spot. It's 120mm thick. The front of the tank and those two sloped sides are only 100mm thick, but those two side plates pretty much turn to auto bounce zones. They are at such an aggressive angle, as you saw with the Death Star about 2 minutes ago. The front plate though only has effective thickness of about 144, obviously on a flat surface, and that massive great big gun mantlet has anywhere between 200 to 400. So when you are brawling in this tank, your biggest weak spot is the front of the tank, and yet your biggest strength is the front of the tank. Hence my dilemma with the armour. I'll go into a bit more detail on that in a minute. But before we do, if we get all the garage stuff out of the way, consumables, as you can see on the screen, is run-of-the-mill for me. Same as the previous tanks in this line though, the driver does die a lot, so it's a very viable option to swap out the repair kit for the first aid kit. I always run the same consumables as standard on mine really, but, except the Germans, I put a fire extinguisher in. On this I would actually recommend the first aid kit. Too many times I have been left without my driver, and this thing is god-awful slow without your driver. Provisions wise, protective kit to try and protect your driver, and rations to improve your crew skills. My su122 in this video isn't even at top crew yet, so it's definitely worth putting them on. Ammo, not a lot to say, 20, 10 and 5. It's worth carrying a bit more HE than usual because it does have fairly high penetration due to the caliper size. Now on an equipment front, options again. Basics though, you should have your rammer and your gun lane drive. Separate to that, I'm running coated optics. Now the reason I run coated optics is because I want to get up front as quick as I can and spot the same as I do in my mediums. This tank though does actually have a very, very good camo rating as standard, so you can put your camo net on it and use it for staying back. It's definitely a viable option, but I personally wouldn't recommend it because of such a small gun arc. As soon as you move the tracks, the camo net is useless. That being said, as long as you don't move your tracks, you can actually keep this tank hidden for quite a while. Now that does lead me nicely into this tank's playstyle. I've had a lot of people actually ask me about the playstyle of this tank. How do we play it, etc, etc. Truth be told, I struggled with this tank when I first had it. It's a brilliant tank, but I struggled with its playstyle. Now what I ended up finding works best for me is treat it as an absolute brawler. So usually for the first half of the match, or for the first period of the match, I will try and preserve my health and then go headfirst straight in. Now rather than do the usual do's and don'ts here, I just wanted to give you a few examples first, only because I haven't had so many people contact me about a certain tank before. So the first key thing I want to point out is you'll notice I am covering the right hand side of the tank. The gun is just off center, which means the biggest weak spot is on the right hand side of the mantlet. So as long as I cover that as much as possible, I've got more chance of being able to bounce more shots. Now the truth be told, I do actually die a lot in this tank, and I'm not ashamed of it because I will get my damage done prior to dying. Well, everybody gets their damage done prior to dying. I get an amount done which I'm happy with before I die, but I do die a lot in this tank. And that's probably because the majority of the time I do treat it as an all-out brawler. Now on the replay playing at the moment, I'm pretty much holding the majority of the big guns on the team while my team are flanking and working their way around the side. I do get penned a fair few times, and obviously you know I'm going to die, but I do bounce a fair amount of shots as well. That reminds me actually, this tank does get ammo racked a lot as well. I've never exploded as a result of the ammo rack, but the ammo rack does get damaged a fair amount. I think in short, if you ask me what the playstyle of this is, it's preserve your health for the first bit of the match. As I said, it has got a good camo rating, so you can snipe for a little bit. As soon as you get spotted though, or as soon as there's no one to shoot at, get straight in there, get as close as you can, and hopefully, I say hopefully bounce as many shots as you can. That is the point where I should die on this match. But if I skip forward to the results screen, you'll see I actually didn't do bad, 3,700 damage nearly, and top of the board. Now I have done more talking than usual in this one. I did want to explain the playstyle in a little bit more detail. I do still have some do's and don'ts for you. It's not as many as usual as a result, but I do hope you enjoy them, and I hope you find them useful.
We didn't even scratch them. I can't get you out of my mind. Yeah, I drank all these bottles down. I met every little girl in town, but I guess what I'm thinking about. Yeah, I jumped up and down the wall, asked the folks to save my soul. I can't get you out of my mind.
Makes my wife make you so hot, and I wonder what you got, you rascal.